Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Are you a survivor of abuse or other trauma? Are you tired of feeling stuck, silent, and stressed all the time? This is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with more inner peace and joy. Are you ready to eliminate suffering from your life and transform from a survivor to thriver? Then congratulations, you are in the right place. Let's get started. So last time we left off with me sharing the impact that hearing a lot of messages of victim blaming and shaming had on me, right? Constantly, and I'm talking about when I was between the ages of 8 and 14 years old, over and over again, I found myself hearing and seeing these messages that said that, number one, either it was the victim's fault that she got abused or raped because she did something that she deserved, like she deserved it, she was asking for it, whether it was, she went to this party where it was a bad environment and there was drinking and drugs, and why did she go there? Or whether it was, she was so stupid, why was she out alone at night in this deserted place? Of course she was going to get in trouble, and secondly, even when it was acknowledged that it wasn't the victim's fault as such, that she got raped or abused, it was said that, poor girl, it wasn't her fault, but her life is still destroyed. She has lost her honor. This is a matter of great shame. Who's going to want to marry her now? And for all intents and purposes, the message was that once you have been victimized with some kind of rape or abuse or, this kind of thing, that your life is destroyed and there's no recovering from something like this happening to you. So the impact that this had on me, there are three main components to the impact. Number one was the fear, right? I mean, the fear that had made me silent in the first place, it only increased when I was hearing, as a result of hearing all these messages over and over again. And so, if anything, the sense of fear got even stronger and took an even stronger stranglehold on me. So I literally thought I would never be able to tell anyone about what had happened to me. Secondly, because there was nonetheless a part of me that knew instinctively and intuitively that there was something very wrong with these messages, I started to feel anger and discontent that grew louder and stronger over time and became more and more difficult for me to contain. Okay? But because, and this was the third effect, that because I didn't know what to do to deal with the fear, to deal with the anger, I didn't know how to heal it. I didn't know how to channel it into something more productive. I didn't know how to solve the challenges I didn't know how to respond to these arguments of victim blaming and shaming. Like, I didn't have the understanding, the sophistication of thought and analysis to be able to say, this is what's wrong with what I'm hearing, right? So it left me feeling very disempowered, right? So there's increase in fear, increase in anger, and at the same time an increase in my feeling of being very disempowered. Like, breaks your hope, right? Leaves you feeling really stuck, silent, and stressed. So now, before I move on to talking about what helped me to break through this state, I actually want to spend a little bit more time talking about this whole victim blaming and shaming, and how we can address the problem with it, how we can shift to a more empowering mindset around this whole issue. Because look, here is the fact. We are living in a world, in a society, where 1 out of every 3 girls and 1 out of every 6 boys, and the vast majority of them, before they hit the age of 24, will have faced some kind of abuse in their life. Just think about that. 1 out of every 3 girls and 1 out of every 6 boys will have faced some kind of abuse in their lives. This includes, this statistic is, by the way, mostly focusing on sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape, right? These kinds of, I'm not even, this not even counting abuse in the context of mental and emotional and verbal abuse and so forth, physical abuse. This statistic is mostly focusing on measuring the kind of abuse that has sexual overtones, sexual connotations. 1 out of 3 girls, 1 out of 6 boys will deal with some kind of sexual abuse, sexual trauma in their life. Not only in their life, but by the time they have hit age 24 years. Okay? So with these kinds of statistics, even if you don't think you know anyone who is a survivor of sexual assault or trauma, you do. You know one person for sure, and you know more than one person, because we all know more than 3 people, 6 people, 12 people, right? So we all know survivors, we all know victims. And unfortunately, what happens is that because we're not educated about these issues, we're not educated about the myths and realities about these issues, we're not educated in how to heal from this kind of a trauma, we are not educated in how to help our loved ones in how to heal and overcome this kind of a trauma, we end up becoming roadblocks. We become part of the problem, instead of the solution. When we are faced with someone who is a survivor, or when we ourselves are victimized and we're trying to heal ourselves, we become roadblocks in our own way. Our friends and family become roadblocks in our way, even though they have the best of intentions in terms of wanting to help us heal and feel better and achieve inner peace that we desire and that they desire for us. So we have to educate ourselves. There's a lot that can be said on this. And this is an issue that I'm particularly passionate about. But I want to keep this brief. So let me give you the bottom line. The bottom line on the issue, this is, if you just remember this, okay, this will help, really, really help. Remember that there is no excuse and never an invitation to rape or abuse. There is no excuse and never an invitation to rape or abuse. Period. And I deliberately make this statement in a very absolute kind of way. There's just no excuse and never an invitation. I don't care what the victim was doing, what they were saying, where they were. I don't care how they were dressed. You know, even if for argument's sake I agree with you or me and that they did something very stupid, that they were dressed in a way that was inappropriate or whatever, there's still no excuse and never an invitation to rape or abuse. Okay? It's like, okay, even if I choose to do something that's risky, okay, the perpetrator is still an independent person with their own mind, their own ability to make their own decisions and to choose their own behaviors. Right? My choices are my own, and I take full responsibility for them. But I am not responsible for anyone else's choices. I'm not responsible for anyone else's behaviors. Okay, two wrongs do not make a right. Even if for argument's sake, we concede that the victim did something wrong, two wrongs do not make a right. It still does not excuse the wrongness of the perpetrator's behaviors and choices. And the problem in our culture, unfortunately, is that we focus all the attention on what the victim might have done wrong. And in the process, we excuse the perpetrator. We give them a free pass or a slap on the wrist, and away they go. This is just unacceptable. And look, here's the other thing that is particularly egregious. When you focus on victim blaming and shaming and focus on what the victim may or may not have done wrong, as opposed to focusing on the perpetrator's choices and behaviors, you completely forget and overlook the fact that rape is not sex. Rape is not sex. And rape is not about sex. Rape is about power and control. Rape is about somebody making a decision to exercise power and control over somebody else in a way that violates their rights, violates their boundaries, violates even basic humanity. And there's absolutely no excuse for it, and there's never an invitation for it. Okay? Think about this. If rape was about sex, why are little babies as young as 1 year old getting raped? What are the babies doing that's so wrong or provocative? or that they are not supposed to be doing? Why are women and elders as old as in their 80s, in their 90s, who can barely move, why are they being subjected to sexual abuse, sexual assault? What are they doing that they're not supposed to be doing? What are they doing that's so provocative? If rape is about how women are dressed, why are women in countries like Afghanistan, where they're actually being forced to dress like in a tent, you cannot even see any part of their body, you cannot even see the shape of their bodies? Why are women in places like that still being subjected to and at constant risk and under threat of being raped and sexually abused and traumatized? Because the fact of the matter is that rape is not sex, and rape is not about sex. Rape is about power and control. Exercising power and control over someone else in a way that violates even basic humanity. Okay? So there's absolutely no excuse and never an invitation to it. Okay, so period, full stop. Just keep this in mind. Okay, so keeping this in mind, if you are a survivor yourself, or you have a loved one who has been through a trauma like this, the empowering message that you can give them is that whatever happened was not their fault. It was not their fault. It doesn't matter what they were doing, what they were saying, what they were wearing. It doesn't matter. It was not their fault, because there is no excuse and never an invitation to rape or abuse. Okay? And as you convey this message, whether it's to yourself or to your loved one, remember that you will have to do it again and again and again and again, and do it with a lot of patience and kindness and compassion. Why? Because we hear the messages of blaming and shaming again and again and again and again, and not just from one source, from multiple sources, and we have been hearing them for pretty much our entire lives. So we have to repeat the empowering messages. This is not your fault. There is no excuse and never an invitation to rape and abuse. Also, we have to repeat again and again and again, and do it with the utmost patience and compassion and kindness. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up for today here. As always, I just want to remind you, I love your feedback and I love to hear from you. So please connect with me. You can do it very easily by going to my website at www.academyofthriving.com. There's a contact us page on the site that you can use to connect with me very easily. So I will see you, connect with you again tomorrow. And in the meanwhile, I wish you lots of peace and joy.